Knowledge is power, and more power you grow, and I want it. Say what? And I want it. Say what?
Mariah Turner loves singing, acting, and going to school. Her life has changed in so many ways within the last 10 years. She and her mother, Annette Turner, were among the thousands who fled New Orleans as a result of Hurricane Katrina in 2005.
When I came back to New Orleans was in 2007, the end of 2007. So I heard about KIPP. I called my mom and I called and she was like, "Oh yeah, KIPP is in Houston. Yes, you gotta take her the first chance you get."
And she was accepted at KIPP Central City Primary School.
So this classroom is ELA, so it's reading, and that's my favorite because I like reading a lot of books.
Her mother says it was one of the best things that could have happened to the entire family.
For so many years, I haven't had a support system. And throughout all of these years, they've been a really good support system for me and my children.
Corbin Johnson is the principal of KPPC. This is one of 10 schools operated by KIPP in New Orleans and more than 140 schools nationwide. It's a public charter school with open enrollment.
Meaning we take students on a first-come, first-served basis, and KIPP, as a charter management organization, we kind of fall under an umbrella that makes us almost like a little mini district.
That's good news to some, but not to others. Schools essentially operating on their own is at the heart of the heated battle that still rages when it comes to charter schools in New Orleans. But education battles in Orleans Parish are nothing new. Plagued with serious financial issues for years, most of the New Orleans public schools were classified as failing even before Hurricane Katrina. In 2005, the state legislature created Act 35, which established the Recovery School District, also known as the RSD. It allowed the State Department of Education to take over 107 of the worst performing schools across Louisiana. The overwhelming majority were in New Orleans. It was the first time the state had taken on such an ambitious task.
We were just in crisis mode.
Patrick Dobard was in the Department of Education when the RSD first began.
So schools were stood up, buildings were reopened, but there wasn't a process.
Many things have changed over the years. Dobard was named superintendent of the RSD, and he has made it his mission to give the community real input.
And we started a process with them to where we gave them some approved charter operators to vet and choose from, and make a recommendation to me where I would still ultimately have the final decision-making power in my role, but it would empower the community to a degree that they could give input.
Certainly not everyone is happy with the charter schools in New Orleans.
I think that it was a mistake to go full-fledged into an all-charter school system.
Karen Royal is a staunch critic of the schools and the process for selecting who can open one. With a child in the system, she is closely involved with what's going on.
Parents in New Orleans no longer have a right to a neighborhood school. There's a school 2 blocks from me. My son doesn't have any more right to go to that school than someone who lives a mile away or 10 miles away.
Neighborhoods want more quality schools versus just schools in their neighborhood.
A lottery system is used to place students in schools, something Royal takes issue with.
While it has been touted as this great choice system for parents in New Orleans post-Katrina, it's really more chance than choice.
Another issue she raises is that there's no way to ensure that children from the same families can always attend the same schools.
It's up to 50% of seats for neighborhood preference. We give sibling preference for schools.
Even though there's something called sibling preference, it's not a sibling guarantee.
But what evidence is there that the new school system is working? Dobard says that measurable improvements are being made.
And we can look at the data. In 2007, 23% of students in New Orleans were scoring at a proficient level on statewide assessments. Today, it's almost 60% of students scoring at a proficient level. We had over 60% of schools were F schools in 2007 in New Orleans. Today, less than 6% of schools in New Orleans are F schools.
In the neighboring state of Mississippi, charter schools are just opening. At Midtown Charter School in Jackson, kids are sitting in rows, cross-legged on the floor, eagerly awaiting their turn to get breakfast. Principal Adam Mangana says their goal is to do things differently than the traditional public schools.
Charter schools have the flexibility to be able to meet the students' needs under the guidance of a private board rather than a school board. So a little bit more flexibility.
Midtown is only the second charter to open in Mississippi since the schools were approved by the legislature in 2013. The process has been slow going, but plans are already underway to expand. Alabama also began the process of determining how to establish charter schools earlier this year. It is the 43rd state to adopt the educational alternative. Del Marsh is president pro tem of the Alabama Senate.
The nice thing about being this late to the table is we've had the chance to see exactly what's worked in these other states and what has not worked.
Still, opponents like Ella Bell aren't convinced that charter schools are the way to go. Bell is a member of the Alabama Board of Education. Recently, board members met to establish the framework for charter school guidelines, but when it came time to vote, Bell abstained.
I'm not a supporter of charter schools, as is well known. I consider that the move toward charter schools has one definitive purpose, and that is to give the state an excuse for continuing to lag behind the quality of education.
Despite the questions, this movement continues to move forward, with charter school enrollment up to nearly 3 million nationwide and counting.
This is the front of the bus!